My parents sent a group message. We think it's best you step away for now. My aunt reacted with a thumbs up. I wrote back, understood. I'll respect that and step away from the family fund, too. That night, I closed my contribution. At 3:11 a.m., my phone started buzzing. 89 missed calls by sunrise. My dad left a voicemail. What happened? The bank flagged everything. I just replied, I'm honoring your decision. That was before they realized everything else I had. We think it's best you step away for now. That was the message. A group chat. Of all things, my parents, my aunt, even my uncle was in there, though he rarely chimed in. But this time, he didn't need to. The silence was enough. The message hit me at 7:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I was reheating some leftover curry, thinking about finishing that spreadsheet before bed, and then I saw it. We've discussed it, and we think it's best if you step away from the family for now. Megan needs space. We all do. Beneath it, my aunt reacted with a thumbs up. Just like that. No call, no explanation, just a thumb. I stared at the screen for a full minute before typing. Understood, I'll respect that, and step away from the family fund, too. I didn't wait for a reply. That night, I logged into the joint account I'd been silently maintaining for 5 years. The one that paid Mom's insulin, helped Dad refinance the second mortgage, kept Megan's car running when her checks got delayed. I removed my auto contributions. Then I closed the account. At exactly 3:11 a.m., my phone started buzzing. It buzzed, and buzzed, and buzzed. By sunrise, 89 missed calls. The last voicemail was from my dad. His voice was shaky, angry, scared. What happened? The bank flagged everything. Are you okay? Why would you? I replied to his message with one sentence. I'm honoring your decision. That was before they realized just how much I had quietly managed. To really understand why that message hit like a betrayal, you'd have to go back 5 years. Back to Megan's second hospitalization. And Dad called me crying in a Walgreens parking lot. She's not going to make it, sweetie. He said they won't admit her without insurance. We're tapped out. That night, I emptied my savings and paid for the rehab out of pocket. Megan seemed stable for a while. Everyone called it a miracle, but what they never said out loud, not even once, was that I'd made it possible. No one offered to reimburse me. No one even asked how I was doing. But it didn't stop there. When Mom got diagnosed with diabetes, I started covering her medication. Dad's hours were getting cut at the warehouse. Megan was in and out of stability, and every time she crashed, they came to me quietly, desperately. At first it was little things. $300 here alone, just for this month. Then they asked if I could help set something up, something permanent, a sort of family emergency pool. I was 27, single, working 80-hour weeks in finance. It made sense, I told myself. I could afford it, so I did. I set up the family fund in my name. I routed payments, Mom's prescriptions, Megan's therapy copays, even the phone bill when they fell behind. They gave me access to everything. Passwords, account numbers, balances, not because they trusted me, but because they didn't want to deal with it. They called me the responsible one. They meant the convenient one. My life turned into a ledger of quiet sacrifices. Meanwhile, Megan spiraled again and again. She got a DUI in 2020, and I paid for the lawyer. She moved in with some guy named Tyler who definitely wasn't abusive. And when she left him in the middle of the night, I was the one who Venmo'd her enough for a hotel and groceries. I never saw a dime back. They never asked where the money came from. They never saw the byline spreadsheet I kept to stay afloat myself. They never noticed that I downgraded my apartment, skipped vacations, ate oatmeal for dinner, more nights than I'd admit, because I was supposed to. I was the financial firewall between them and collapse. And for a while, I was okay with that, until the Christmas incident. It was 2 years ago. Megan threw a fit because I said I couldn't buy her new tires, not after I just paid her rent. She told my parents I was making her feel judged. That night, I got a message from Dad. Just try to be a little more understanding. Leah, she's in recovery. You don't know how hard that is, and I snapped. Not publicly, not explosively, but something in me cracked like ice under pressure. I didn't reply. Instead, I did something different. I started documenting everything. Every dollar sent, every invoice paid, every excuse they made. I created backups, emailed myself statements, collected screenshots, not to hold it over them, Not yet, but to remind myself that it was real, that I wasn't imagining the drain, the pattern, the constant pulling without giving. Then last month, it came to a head. Megan texted the family group, "Hey, I know money's tight, but could the fund cover a yoga retreat in Arizona? It's for my mental health. A yoga retreat, $3,200. I didn't answer, I waited. I wanted to see what they'd say. And my dad, the same. "Man, I pulled out of overdraft twice last year," replied. "Sounds like something you really need. Let's see what we can do." Mom chimed in with a heart emoji. That's when I realized they weren't just using me. They expected me to be used. They thought the fund was theirs, that I was some kind of silent donor. The gratitude had evaporated years ago, and in its place was entitlement. But the kicker, the grenade in the room, came just 2 nights before the message. We were on a family call, a monthly check-in that usually turned into a therapy session for Megan with me as the invisible ATM in the background. I tried to talk about my promotion. I'd been made a director at the firm. Huge raise, massive responsibility. Dad interrupted me mid-sentence. "Sorry. Can we circle back to Megan's housing? She's not feeling safe in her current unit." They wanted to move her into a better area with my help. Obviously, I didn't agree. I didn't fight. I just said calmly, "Maybe it's time someone else stepped up." Silence. Cold, stony, offended. And then came that message 2 days later. "We think it's best if you step away for now." The thumbs up from Aunt Carol felt like a knife. They thought they were cutting me off. They didn't realize they were severing the cord to the only thing keeping their financial lives stitched together. I had been the quiet current beneath their lives. The moment I stopped, their lights went out. It took exactly 36 hours for the fallout to begin. First came the overdraft notices. Then Mom's pharmacy called me. Then Megan, the one who wanted space, left a voicemail that started in a whisper and ended in screaming. "Why would you do this? You knew I needed that payment." By Sunday morning, the texts were relentless. Dad sent a barrage of voice notes like, a man unraveling in real time. They exiled me from the family chat as if I didn't belong. The mortgage bounced. "I thought you handled the insurance. The car is uninsured now. What did you do to the utilities account?" "The bank locked our checking. Said there were multiple red flags. You need to fix this. Fix this." As if I had broken something. As if I hadn't just stepped back, like they asked. The real problem wasn't that I stopped helping. It was that they never realized how much I was holding everything together. And then came the family Zoom call. My cousin Emily set it up, pretending it was just to talk. But the second I joined, I saw their faces lined up in neat little rectangles, like a jury. Mom's lips were pressed so tight they looked bloodless. Dad was pacing. Megan had tears streaming down her cheeks. It looked rehearsed. Aunt Carol sat, smugly in a scarf and pearls, like we were in family court. "Why did you do this to us?" Megan started, voice quivering. "You just abandoned us." "After everything I've done," I said. "You mean after I paid your rent, funded your rehab, and got mocked for saying no to your yoga retreat?" "That's not fair," she began. "Fair?" I snapped. "You want fair? How about this? For 5 years, I've covered your financial trail like a forensic janitor. I've cleaned up your messes, paid your overdrafts, bailed you out while you posted inspirational quotes about healing and alignment. And the moment I hesitate, you exile me from the family chat like I was disposable." Mom finally spoke. "It wasn't exile. We were giving you space, too." "No, you weren't." I cut in. "You were siding with Megan again, like you always do. You just found a polite way to tell me to disappear. So, I did." Dad folded his arms. "You didn't have to cancel the fund." "I didn't cancel it," I said. "I closed it in my name, funded with my money, managed by me. That family fund was never a trust. It was a leash." His face turned red. "We trusted you." "No," I said, "you used me." Then I opened the folder beside me and clicked share screen. A spreadsheet appeared. Rows and rows of payments, dates, amounts, every dollar tracked, rent, medical, utilities, repairs, Megan's retreat that I almost paid, the overdrafts I fixed, the emergency dental for Aunt Carol, even the Uber receipts from the time I paid for Mom to get to the hospital at 2 a.m. during a panic attack. "Wow," whispered Emily. "Who even keeps all this?" Carol sneered. "Someone who knew one day you'd gaslight her into thinking she made it all up." I said nothing, just stared at the screen. Then I clicked to the final tab. It showed a running total. It's 87 known. Dead silence. Dad stepped back from the camera like he'd been slapped. You've been keeping tabs on us, Mom said, horrified. No, I said. I've been surviving you. Megan lunged at the screen like a child having a tantrum. You're just bitter. You've always been bitter because no one gives you a gold star for being the good daughter. You want applause for acting like an adult? No, I said calmly. I just want boundaries. And
I'm done being your financial safety net. That's rich, Carol muttered. You think money is the only thing that matters? No, I said, but it was the only thing you ever came to me for. Then I closed the spreadsheet, stared into the camera, and delivered the final blow. I've already contacted the bank. All joint authorizations removed. My name is no longer on anything related to your accounts. The credit card's closed. The shared. Utility autopay's canceled. The insurance premiums you'll need to re-enroll yourselves. You wanted me to step away. This is what that looks like, Mom gasped. Dad's face turned pale. Megan looked like she'd been shot. Emily leaned back in awe, but I wasn't done. I also spoke to a lawyer, I added. You'll be receiving documents in the next few days. I'm dissolving any legal ties between me and the family trust that was never formalized just in case someone tries to dip into my credit or open anything in my name again. You're overreacting, Megan shrieked. You're cutting us off. I'm protecting myself. I said, from now on, I'm not your plan B, not your fallback, not your free ride. Dad looked broken but said nothing. Mom was quietly sobbing now. Megan stood up and walked off screen, slamming something in the background. Carol reached forward and ended the call without a word. And I sat back, heart pounding, hands trembling. But for the first time in a decade, I wasn't afraid of the fallout because I had nothing left to lose except the weight I'd been carrying for too long. The silence after that call was almost eerie. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz with a, hey, quick favor, or can you just cover this one thing? There were no guilt-laced voicemails, no crying emojis, no passive-aggressive posts from Megan about family who turns their back. Nothing. It was like I'd vanished. At first, I thought maybe they finally got it. Maybe they were learning to stand on their own, but I should have known better. Exactly 10 days later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize, a burner clearly with a single sentence. You've ruined everything. Attached were screenshots of bills, Megan's eviction notice, a final warning from the power company, a denied credit card application with my name listed as the former co-signer. They were unraveling quickly, chaotically. And the thing about people who are used to leaning on you, they don't fall gracefully. They crash and they blame you for the landing. That same week, Mom showed up at my office. I was in a meeting. My assistant came in, wide-eyed. There's a woman here. Says she's your mother. Won't leave. I stepped into the lobby and there she was. Pale, shaking, holding an envelope full of papers. I didn't know where else to go, she said, voice brittle. Your dad's sleeping on the couch. Megan hasn't left her room in 3 days. The landlord says he's changing the locks next week. I didn't say a word, so she played her last card. I raised you, she said, suddenly fierce. I gave you life, and this is how you repay us. That's when I laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just hollow, like air escaping a cracked pipe. You gave me life, I said, and then you spent 30 years trying to convince me I owed you for it. She flinched. I stepped forward. I didn't come to you at 22 and say, please let me be responsible for your dysfunction. Let me carry your debt. Let me save my sister over and over again while you nod and enable her. Let me sacrifice my mental health, my relationships, my life, just so you can avoid looking in the mirror. She said nothing, so I kept going. You want help? Call a social worker. Call a credit counselor. Call the same system you said people like us were too proud to rely on. I'm not your bailout anymore. Then I walked back to my office. I didn't even check to see if she followed me. But that wasn't the end. A week later, I got a letter, not an email, an actual letter from the bank. The envelope was thick, the kind of thick that means trouble. Inside, a flagged investigation. Summary. Apparently, someone had tried to open a business loan using my name, my SSN, and the tax ID number linked to the family fund. Only reason it didn't go through, I closed the account days earlier and it triggered a fraud alert. The loan, $80,000. The business name, Megan Grace Recovery Services, LLC. I froze. That was not a real company. There was no LLC, no tax record, no license, but the paperwork was submitted, complete with a forged signature that matched mine. I called the bank. The fraud department rep pulled up the full packet, and when she read the co-signers, Dad and Mom, I sat there in stunned silence as she said, "Ma'am, it appears someone close to you tried to pose as your authorized financial partner. If you hadn't closed that fund, this might have gone through undetected. They hadn't just used me. They tried to shift responsibility onto me, quietly tie my name to a loan I wasn't part of, and that's when everything sharpened. The way Megan suddenly wanted space, the way my parents encouraged it, the silence, the removal, the polite exile. It wasn't spontaneous. It was a setup. Get me off the fund quietly, keep my name attached. Take the money, disappear. Let the bank come after me when things collapsed. They didn't just want my help. They wanted to keep me responsible without asking. And when that didn't work, I became the villain in a story they'd written to cover their own failed heist. I spent the weekend filing reports. Bank, police, IRS. I submitted the forged documents. I wrote an affidavit. I even handed over old texts that showed Megan asking about starting a nonprofit in my name. It took hours, but every keystroke felt like therapy. That night, Megan called from a different number, crying. I just wanted to say, I get it now. I let her talk. She didn't mention the loan, didn't mention the forgery, just went on about how sorry she was, how hard things had been, how we're still family. I asked one question. Did you know about the business application? Dead silence. Then the line went dead. I blocked the number. That's when the real shift happened, not in them and me. I started sleeping better. I stopped checking my bank app. Every night, fearing someone was quietly siphoning me again. I went to dinner with friends and didn't flinch when the check came. Then came the call from Uncle Ray, the outcast, the one they called unstable for cutting ties years ago. He found me through LinkedIn. Saw what you did, he said. Heard about the fund. Heard about the loan too. I didn't ask how. Ray had always known more than he let on. You're not the first they drained, he added. Just the first who shut the faucet off. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just about me. This was generational. A long line of people who got groomed into servitude, into silence, into being the savior while everyone else drowned themselves in denial. They thought I was the villain because I stopped playing the hero. Let me tell you something about heroes. Most of them die broke and exhausted while everyone else claps at their funeral. Not me. I moved cities 2 months later. New job, better team, higher salary, no forwarding address. And one day, in the quiet of my new apartment, floors still bare, furniture still arriving, I got a message on Facebook from Tyler. Yeah, that Tyler, Megan's abusive ex. Didn't expect this, it rained. But thank you for helping her, even when she didn't deserve it. I wasn't the only thing she needed saving from. It stopped me cold. Not because I needed the validation, but because it was the first time anyone in that orbit had acknowledged the truth, that I had been saving them from themselves until I stopped. And when I stopped, the silence that followed wasn't guilt. It was freedom. It's been almost a year, 12 months since I closed the fund. Since the group chat exile, since the 3:11 a.m. phone call that spiraled into 89 missed calls. One voicemail and a complete financial collapse they never saw coming. Since they submitted a business loan application using my name without telling me and tried to frame me for $80,000 in imaginary recovery services, I kept thinking I'd feel empty after walking away. That guilt would sneak in late at night like it used to, whispering, "They're your family. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you could have saved them." But the only thing I feel now, peace, not the performative kind. Not the kind you pretend to have when you're holding back tears during Sunday dinner while someone jokes about how you're the responsible one. Real peace, the kind where your phone doesn't buzz with dread, where your money is yours, where your boundaries hold, where you don't apologize for being free. They tried, of course. Mom emailed on Christmas Eve, said the tree looked emptier. This year, attached a photo of her and Dad in the living room, smiling without their teeth, a performance for the lens. Megan emailed on her birthday in March, a 5-paragraph essay about how she was reclaiming her power, ending with a casual line about needing help covering her first and last month's rent. I didn't reply to either. I still check my credit score. Monthly, it's fine. There were no surprise accounts, no mystery charges. The alerts I set up after the forgery never triggered because now I own my life and I protect it the same way I once protected theirs. But here's the part I didn't expect. Other people started coming forward. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Coworkers I'd barely spoken to. Even a stranger on Reddit who read a comment I left in a finance thread and messaged your story. I think it happened to me too. Turns out there are a lot of us. The strong ones, the reliable ones, the ones who pay the rent, fix the chaos, hide the panic, and carry the weight while being told we're too cold. When we finally ask for something back, the family vaults with no locks. Until one day we learn to slam the door. Let me be clear. Walking away from my family was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than watching Megan relapse. Harder than deleting Dad from my emergency contacts. Harder than choosing silence while they called me selfish. Bitter, cruel. But it was also the most necessary thing I've ever done. And the final straw, the one that made me sure I did the right thing, came just a few weeks ago. I was walking home from a late client meeting, same street I've walked dozens of times, and there, sitting outside the corner bakery, was Aunt Carol. Scarf pearls, that same smug posture. She saw me, waved like we were old friends. I nearly kept walking, but I stopped. She looked me up and down. "You look well," she said. "I am." There was a beat. Then, with zero irony, she asked, "Would you ever consider setting something up again for emergencies?" I laughed long and low, and from somewhere deep in my gut, then I said calmly, "I did. It's called my future," and I walked away. I don't know if they'll ever really understand what they lost or why I had to go. Maybe they'll rewrite the story, say I was greedy, unstable, ungrateful. Maybe Megan will write a blog post about toxic siblings and turn it into a podcast. I don't care because the truth is simple. I'm not the villain in their story. I'm the one who finally escaped it. And in doing so, I gave myself the one thing they never could. Freedom without conditions.